I'm pretty sure a lot of you might have heard about Puffer. We are a very DeFi native protocol, started our operations about 4 years ago. With a lot of focus on initially the core protocol of Ethereum and staking. But what I'm going to talk about today is really just the aftermath of like ongoing events. Ever since we've been in this space, like we have seen many, many events. And right now, especially like the DeFi events that are happening recently are being more highlighted by institutions because they're using it. As developers of these protocols in this space, we want to really create more transparency. I've seen questions from ETF providers. How can you actually unstake faster? What are the ways that we can get out of this queue? What are the ways that we can get exposure to the yield of liquid staking, liquid restaking without actually getting screwed over? I do admit that because for the longest time, there has been a disconnect between the DeFi protocols and the institutions that are working together. DeFi protocols came with a different knowledge of the space that, okay, if you have this 24/7 platform, that there is no revert on it, you cannot cancel a transaction, and this is our value. But without mentioning that to a lot of asset allocators, that this value add can be also a security breach or a security compromise for them. So today's talk, I'm going to really cover a lot of angles that we thought about that can breach this gap. By bridging this gap, more assets can be allocated on Ethereum. I'm going to put some proposals out for institutions to start engaging with the Ethereum Foundation more. Of course, the internal team changes might make it differ. I'm going to give examples how you can request to actually lower this unbonding period of staking or do any other activities, because Ethereum as a protocol is really a community-driven protocol itself. So let me see if I can go to next. There we go. First off, one of the reasons that a lot of us are in this room is we have billions of dollars of stablecoins moving on chain. Over $300 billion of stablecoins were issued on chain. This is the value add of having a 24/7 rail that you can trade on. You can create an efficiency that does not exist on the market today. RWAs, Genius Act, of course, has been proposed to make this much easier. So there is no doubt that the capital is moving on chain. But this capital is at huge risk. We've seen with Drift, KelpDAO. These are smaller hacks that we've seen this year. Last year, we had $1.8 billion from just one centralized exchange being hacked. So we're just starting this year, and we're seeing a lot of hacks already happening, mostly around opsec. Some of these hacks have been already talked about for the longest time that, hey, this is coming. But unfortunately, of course, the space has a lot of newcomers, and they tend to forget the history of what happened before. Another thing is, this space is far more complex than a traditional space. For the reasons that I mentioned, you have the DeFi composability, you have the 24/7 uptime, you do not have the revert transaction. Therefore, just auditing the smart contract is not enough. Many of these systems have many Web 2 aspects to them. They have certain repositories, GitHub, access tokens, signing keys. These are the real world Web 2 handleable security that need to be addressed. So what actually happened in the most recent action, of course, in the case of Drift, there was one address, one EOA that was compromised. Just losing one key meant losing $270 million. Why? Because all of these systems is accessible on chain. In the other cases as well, one Web 2 component breaks down and all of the assets are gone. So basically, it's the operator that you have to trust to operate my assets well, to hold the tokens and the keys secure enough so my assets do not vanish. And of course, we have the composability blast radius. One protocol gets hacked. You might not be able to go redeem that asset from that protocol because they freeze their protocol, but you can go borrow against it on Aave. And that will become your exit liquidity of the hack. So that's why there are the blast radius of these hacks can go actually very, very wide. Before I get into introduction of Puffer, imagine now this hack happened and Kelp's DAO token was on one of the institutional lending providers. They could have even got bigger at a much higher liquidity, better access in terms of like walking away with the hack, and that would have been really disastrous. So a little background about Puffer. We know ourselves as the Ethereum's security-first staking provider. Why do we just say this? And why did we got, for example, $1 billion in just 16 days is we started looking at security as the main component of onboarding users. In banks, today in America especially, we have FDIC. Why do we deposit in a bank? Why does a startup has to trust Silicon Valley Bank with their money, right? Because it's insured by the US government, or the US Treasury, or FDIC. They can bail out if something really bad happens. We don't have these luxuries today on chain with majority of the protocols. You pick a centralized liquid staking provider, which operators have no skin in the game. They basically say, okay, I'm an operator, I have some ISO 9001, SOC 2, or all of these fancy security credentials, but I can only insure you for $1 million up to your stashing asset. How much did you stake with me? $350 million. This is ridiculous. This means that basically on majority of the liquid staking and liquid restaking protocols, well, that covers like some of the very well-known protocols like Lido and EtherFi, operators do have zero skin in the game. They just get the keys, they start operating. This really seemed to us as an existential threat to any institutions who wants to enter because they don't see any insurance on the other side. But what is underwriting all of these multi-billion-dollar risk now? In addition to that, we've seen that, for example, on an Aave v3, if another protocol gets hacked or someone is about to get liquidated, even if it's not an ETH asset, even the stablecoin assets got actually like exposed to that. So these bothered us. So we wanted to create many of the primitives that actually counters this beyond just liquid staking or restaking. So we really value security architecture and security in depth. What are some of the items that were missing from these protocols that were hacked? An example was Drift protocol. They did not have a time lock. Institutions, when they actually stake, they allocate a lot of money to a protocol, they want to have an exit window. Okay, if let's say the team or the operators of this protocol decide to rug the entire institutions, how are they protected? Before even entering, they should ask, what is the delay between a protocol upgrading their smart contracts or the entire architecture? What is the time between that goes in effect and the time that I have to exit the protocol? That is called a time lock. We started our protocol with a time lock and a multiple layers of multisigs. One multisig, of course, for the team and the operations and the DAO, but there must be another multisig outside of this protocol, which is held by the most reputable community members. It can be reputable custodians or institutions that can stop a malicious upgrade by the governance or the DAO to go through. These are the items that we taught. Another item that, okay, this one is more on the security side, on the operations side, but what is more important than this? Institutions want to see the skin in the game from the operators. That's where we introduced the 2 ETH bond per validator. We're pulling ETH to stake into Puffer. It might be millions of dollars worth. If an operator wants to operate these validators on the Ethereum network to actually expose the income of this infrastructure to the investors, they must bring their own skin in the game. That's why we're imposing a 2 ETH bond. We're working with many institutional operators, including P2P, including we used to work with Everstake as well that you saw, that they're putting this bond down. Now they have their own skin in the game. If there is a validator downtime, if there is a slashing event, they are going to pay for it because they are responsible for operating with your money, your asset manager, your allocator's money. They must be able to pay for it in an event of a security event. We introduced many other aspects that we have seen in protocols happening last year, especially staking providers. This is the Web 2 side that I'm mentioning now. Of course, when we introduced the Guardian modules at Puffer, we were deemed as inefficient and too complex to understand. It is a simple method. We're creating an on-chain attestation and an on-chain verification that we are running a code as it is intended to be run on a Web 2 landscape. Web 3 has smart contracts. It's an open code. You go check the smart contract on the blockchain. It is the code that is intended to be run. How about the off-chain part, the opsec part that I was talking about? How can I assure you guys that I'm running the code, the Web 2 code, the opsec side, the way that I intend to run it without being able to change it in a short period of time? That's where the trusted hardware comes in, the TEs come in. That's where our Guardian modules come in. We commit to a code that we run off-chain, on-chain. So you guys know that we haven't changed the code. Even if our developers, our access keys are exposed, nobody can run this change code. This has resulted in one of the events last year we've seen in one of the biggest staking operators that increased the exit rate to 45 days on Ethereum because they had to exit all their validators because their withdrawal credentials were exposed. We have called this incident before happening, but it was deemed as overly complex. Now we see that we need these primitives to enhance the security of the protocol itself. Of course, I covered the 2 ETH bond to cover the slashing and also inactivity of the operators because you're really trusting every operator to make money for you. Guardians, just a trust minimized backstop, as I explained, to avoid the things that happened with one of the biggest operators on chain. I can stay on this for a little longer. Now, we went even beyond this. We were like, okay, there is one aspect that has the highest amount of liquidity on chain, which is liquid staking protocols and liquid restaking. Puff ETH is a completely permissionless liquid restaking protocol. Anybody can stake their ETH there. It has integrations with Anchorage today. You can actually mint this asset. However, it's open to everybody. Anybody in the world can mint Puff ETH. Of course, we block some sanction areas and other areas as well. But anybody can really mint this. So it's compatible with all DeFi, with all its liquidity. Some institutions might not want that. They might say, I do not want to include my ETH in a pool of everybody else. I don't want Puff ETH because I'm exposed to some other regions or some other characters that I don't know. I, as an institution, have done the KYC to be included in the same pool. That's where we introduced Puffer Institutional. ETF providers, centralized exchanges, or anywhere else, they can get their own LST and LRTs, completely separate from existing pools. They can honor redemptions and withdrawals themselves. We do have one of the major top 10 exchanges launching with this very soon. And you can actually do the KYC parameters as the way that you want it. We took it even step further. As Puffer, we're working on these execution environments. We call them private execution environments. In the Web3 world, they're called rollups or L2s or network extensions, some call them. The idea for this was for developers, of course, to get scaling that they much need that Ethereum cannot cover. Ethereum is a very slow network. It updates every 12 seconds. And we needed to go beyond that. Of course, we introduced Puffer Unify, which is a based rollup. It has millisecond guarantees. It means that it is very fast. It can compete with the modern financial paradigms. But in addition to this, the version that we created, institutional, or ProMax, or institutional execution environments, or private execution environments, are built for institutions specifically that want to issue their assets on a chain that they have a lot of control over, issue their assets on a blockchain that has privacy, issue their assets on a blockchain that has the speed that they need. They can even launch their own trading desk, perpetuals, futures, options on this blockchain. They have full control over it. They can KYC even access to it. We built paradigms for that. And they can offer privacy that they much need as well. So that's what Puffer Unify rollup is. Currently, it's secured and its operation by about 3 million ETH. This is an extra security layer provided to sequence the transactions. Of course, you can choose to use our gateways, which are Ethereum builders and some major operators that we will announce soon as well. Or you can run the gateways and other operations yourself. The major advantage of this is you do not have to hire an entire blockchain infrastructure team to run a blockchain. You're inheriting Ethereum security. The sequencing is going to be done by operators that are insured by 3 million ETH, which will be valued at $5 billion today. And you're getting all the advantages of being connected to the most accessible and most liquid public chain, which is Ethereum. You can access it. You can have your users withdraw to it anytime without trusting a third-party bridge that can break. You will be the only trust factor here. And you will be underwritten by a lot of ETH. So something that is coming to Unify landscape as well, like some exciting protocols like proprietary AMMs. It's going to take a while till I get to that to explain what it is, but it's one of the very cool primitives that are being introduced that are much more efficient than today's AMMs, like that you know of, Uniswap, Curve, that work based on Curve-like market making. There's perp dexes, there's prediction markets, and payment rails that are coming to our Unify stack as well. So really, like, where Puffer fits, if you're thinking of, okay, now you gave me all these suite of products as this team, like, where does it fit? We really fit it, like, if you're interested in just, like, pure staking solutions on Ethereum or any other protocol. Or really, if you're a bank and institution and you're looking to have your own execution environment with your own rules, with your own guardrails, with your own KYC and parameters, that's where like Puffer really comes in. Thank you so much. Happy to answer any questions you might have. No questions? Okay, thank you.